Now then, Lewis, how are you getting on today, mate?
I'm good, thank you, Matthew. Really good. Been out for my run this morning. Really cold, actually. Weather has turned. Definitely has turned. I don't know if you've noticed that on your runs recently, but tight weather now.
I know, yeah, I've been pulling mine out the last few days for my regular runs. I didn't run this morning though, but I'm planning on getting out tomorrow and Sunday so I can get a couple of get my 50 mile a week in, which
Yeah, I
I'm
was
trying
going
to
to
keep.
say, it's still going well, I see. I see on social media. So you're still hitting those 50s?
Yeah, I'm trying to stick to it. It's just become a bit of obsession now, trying to make sure I get to it. So I'm trying to like stack the early week up with runs so that I've got like so that if I get to Sunday and I've broken, I can walk 5-6 miles and not get too bored. But yeah, it's going all right, mate. It's going all right. And obviously
Good.
the new restrictions that have come in and the new details on the tier system and stuff. Obviously, been in lockdown all in November, and hopefully we're coming out of that in December. Although different areas are in different kind of dilemmas. I think you're in an area where it's tier 3, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're in tier three, so nothing much changes for us. Although the beauty of tier three being the big change and the one that everyone cares about is you can actually get a haircut. I know it's not a worry for you because you like to grow yours long,
It's
but
getting so
as you
long,
can
man.
see, my bannet's starting to look a little bit overgrown. So I put the headset on today to try and squash it down.
I thought you were trying to copy my haircut. I thought you were trying to. You've got another year to go, I think. But
Yeah, just want to be actually on that note. You commented on my one of my social media posts yesterday, I think it was, and I put the screenshot on my story, and someone put, "Is this a social media man crush?" And it was your
did they?
post on mine. So just trying to beat each other, aren't we?
Yeah. Hey, mate. So this week we're going to talk a bit about habits, and I think that we've between us we've gone through different stages of our lives where we've had good habits, we've had bad habits, and we've had situations where we've been forced out of the habits that we've had, and we've also forced ourselves into them. And I thought it'd be a good chance today to discuss a bit about what we've done in terms of our habits over the years, and the reasons why they are beneficial for people's lives, and the reasons why having positive habits are a massive plus for your life. And sometimes people think that there's a negative connotation to doing the same thing like again and again and again, but the positives sometimes outweigh that. And first of all, I'd like to ask you, so what are some of the habits that you have, and how are they positive or negative?
Yes, it is a really interesting point and area because before I started integrating new habits into my life, I would have been on that side of the fence of like, why does everything have to be habitual? Why do we have to do things in routine? But then if you break it down and look at it, like pretty much everything we do is habit. Like we brush our teeth every single day, or you're supposed to, and we ingrain that habit from a young age. And and we get showered and different things, and we have certain habits that we don't even realize have become habits over time. And to ingrain a new habit into your life, that's pretty much how it's got to go. Is it's almost got to come routine without you even realizing. So the habit that I started this year in lockdown, as you know, is I started putting in a morning routine to get my morning started in the right way, which involved getting up, reading for 15-20 minutes of a book. I actually counted yesterday. I've done 16 books since March this year. It's more than I've ever read in my life, which is great. So I've never done 16 books in my lifetime. So
I can
that's a great start.
also ratify that, because I know you typically didn't like reading books. I know we discussed it over the years leading up to this year, and you've never been a reader. You've always been someone who learned like a lot from experiences and from visuals and that sort of stuff. But to change your complete habit and start reading books, it shows it can be done completely.
Yeah, and do you know what? I can't go without it now because it's been that long that it's just become norm, and it's like part of that routine of brushing your teeth in the morning. It is literally ingrained in there, and I would feel very unusual not doing that, as well as journaling. I journal every morning. I do some stretching routine as you do as well, bit of stretching, bit of yoga type stuff, and I just feel like it sets me up really nicely for the day. Now, I think the biggest thing to emphasize is, and you touched on this already, is when you first start doing it, it doesn't really feel normal. And actually, it feels a little bit weird to put these things in. And it takes a long time for it to become normal and to start feeling like a routine. I don't know if you find that.
Yeah, definitely. And so some of the habits that I've had in the past have been probably detrimental to my health and body, and they've not been great in terms of going to bed late, like waking up late sometimes, waking up too early sometimes, and having my phone in my bed, for example. Like I use my phone at night time before I went to sleep, and I go on my computer and watch like videos until like 11, 12. I'm doing work as well late on until that time as well, and all these habits that I've had over the past that it's really hard to get out of. And myself this year, like yourself, I have been trying to implement. I didn't call it a morning routine for myself. I had it as I need to stretch every day, and because otherwise, if I can't stretch, I can't run. And I didn't really know this until lockdown. And once I started doing it, and I saw the impact of it, meaning the impact was I could actually run again. I saw, flipping heck, I have to do this every day now, and I think I'm 260 days in a row of doing the same stretching every morning for 20 minutes, which is massive for me. But another habit that I brought in was at night times I put my phone in another room, so I don't. I don't use my phone at night times. I can't use my phone at night times because it's in another room. And I've also stopped using my laptop as well after like 10 o'clock time. So I don't have that kind of, my mind's thinking about work. I'm trying to wind down. I've also tried to do things like read before bed as well to make sure that I'm thinking about like words on a paper rather than like looking at visuals. So like there's lots of things you can implement. And I don't necessarily think that it works for everybody, because people might have children, they might have like work shift patterns, and some of those things just don't work. But I think having habits that you do every day, and just one habit that you think is positive, you can then start doing things like stacking the habits on top of each other. So
habit stacking, yeah.
What you mentioned then about your morning routine, you started off with doing one thing and you've ended up doing a few things as well. And the same thing happened with my stretching. So I started stretching every morning, and it was, to be honest with you, a massive pain, and I couldn't wait to finish it, rush inside, have my breakfast, and carry on my day. But now, because of the stretching, I'm doing the stretching, and then straight afterwards, I will then get my, I'll do 50 press ups. If there's a pull up bar near me, I'll do some pull ups and some sit ups if I've got that option as well. And then I'll go into writing in the journal as well. So every morning, writing down some stuff, and that's kind of a newer habit. That's the last like 30, 40 days. And then as well as that, I've got like a Theragun thing, so I massage my legs. So I've taken one habit, which took 20 minutes, into 5 habits, which take me an hour. So it means because of that, I have to get up earlier to fit all those things in. So the whole thing comes back to just getting up early. So it's a weird one, and I feel worse if I don't do those 5 things. So, but what I'm doing is also trying to convince myself that just doing one of those things is good enough. Like it might not be all 5, and that's fine, but I have to do that one. And if I don't do that one, the pivotal habit, then my day is not complete. So I've convinced myself that this habit is positive, even though it might sound a bit crazy.
Yeah, and I worked with a friend, Rob, actually, at Worthy Tweaks, and went through their habit changing program when I started to implement the habits in, and they talked about habit stacking, and he said exactly that. As soon as you start to do one of those things in a morning, or one of your habits, you're more likely to then do the others. And I put out an Instagram post today actually about taking the first step out the door. It's the same with running. When you take the first step, you're more likely to do more. But for a lot of people, it's just about doing, even if you just say to yourself, I'm just going to do 5 minutes, okay, I don't need to do the full hour. You'll probably end up doing 20 minutes or 30 minutes as a result of that. But back to what you said about getting up early, I'm the same. I get up a lot earlier than I used to now because I want to start the day on the right foot. And then everything kind of goes in line. Because you're getting up earlier, you go to bed earlier. But in order to go to bed earlier, you need to put your phone away, which I do as well. I put my phone away at 9 o'clock at night. It goes in another room. And then you start to feel better for these things. Like it starts to feel like a bit of freedom. But if you've gone to bed earlier, you sleep better because you've not had that technology in front of your eyes. There's a lot of research that says having that blue light in front of your eyes 90 minutes before bed can affect your sleep. If you're getting better sleep, you're going to get up in a better mood, and you're setting your day up in the right way. You're going to be healthier. You're going to feel better. And I don't know about you, I just all round feel better for it.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel generally my mood is generally better all around, because I do think I've done that thing in the day. Whereas before, if I didn't run that day, for example, I'm running my release. If I didn't run that day, I just feel so pent up. But now, because I've done a stretch, I know I've done something positive for that day in terms of my body, me, something for me. And I think everyone needs to grind that time out. And there is often like situations where people will have so many different things thrown at them that they can't avoid. and they can't even find time for themselves. Like, for example, like a new mum that might have 1 or 2 kids, and their partner might not be around during the day or might be away working, and then there's no one else to look after those kids. To find time in your day for yourself in that it feels impossible. But if you focus on it being one simple thing that you can do and work it around the situation you're in, and like if you work shift patterns and you know every day you can do these 5 stretching routines for your calves, for your hamstrings, for your quads, for your back, and for your feet or something, and you can do those all at your workstation, and you know you do those every single day, and then the days off work you can do those 5 things again, but then maybe you'll add things to it as well. Finding those things that you do every single day, stack those habits, are going to be a massive benefit to you. And these roll over into running as well. And like elite athletes, they have their schedule set out and plans set out, and they all have routines that they follow. They follow them for a reason. There's a reason why elite athletes have routines. They have set schedules. It's habits. It's creating something that they're doing every day, because over a period of months, weeks, years, they will perform better in their chosen activity. Whereas we're talking about at the runner retreat, trying to increase people's life, not just with the running performance, but also the more positive, healthy lifestyle. And by doing these things, and at our camps, we'll be showing you how this works. And at the retreats, we'll show you exactly how to do these things and have talks on exactly how we've implemented them and how you can implement them too. But doing these habits and having a more holistic approach to your training will definitely improve your running as well.
Yeah, it does. And like you're doing 50 mile a week now, which you weren't doing before, but it's not a coincidence that you're doing a lot of things around that to enable you to do that running. And it's the same with anything in life. I think for runners as well, particularly at the elite end, one of the most difficult things I find from a coaching perspective, I was talking about this last night on one of our Q&As, is that a lot of people don't like repetition, but what elite athletes are very good at is repetition. They do similar sessions as we used to do when we were young. You know, we go back to certain sessions, mile reps, 400 reps, and we have no problem going down the track every single week to the same venue. Whereas I talk to a lot of runners who are coaching and say, I get bored of running around in circles, like doing the same thing every week. But we know the power of repetition and the power of routine and the power of habits. And I think it's a little bit of a mindset shift personally, that what elite athletes are very good at, what we can take from them, is when they are there to train, they are in that zone. You know, they're fully focused on what they're doing. It doesn't matter where they are. It's like footballers, right? Footballers go to the same training ground every day. They don't care that they're in the same training ground every day because they know it's going to help their performance. Now, what we're going to do with the retreat is actually we're going to take people to inspiring environments where you do want to be every day, and you get inspired by looking out the window in the morning and seeing the mountains in front of you. You know, almost like you just want to get out there and run. But there's going to be times in the winter, particularly right now, where it's going to be cold, wet at home, and you've got to get out before work. And it's really important to build that repetition and habit building, even if it's running that you want to do. Because there might be people here thinking, I'd like to build running into my program more.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you mentioned it before, it's when you're trying to create a habit, it's very hard to do. So taking yourself out your current zone to ingrain the new habits and then bringing it back to those to your actual home environment is a good way to do it, to make things easy for yourself. The same way you said, go out for a 5-minute run or walk. It's just doing that 5-minute run or walk that will make you do 20 minutes. So you might have to try and tease yourself into it by going away to a beautiful location to learn these habits. Or you might be able to do it from home yourself by making it really easy for yourself to do. But I think they're the same kind of thing. Make it simple so that you can't avoid it. And for me, I the stretching that I do, and you yourself, you're a coach, you're expert in what you do. You have all these different routines and stretching routines in your head. And myself, I did have that when I was younger, and I've had a bit of time away from it. So those routines aren't as ingrained for me. So I downloaded an app, and my partner, she recommended it called Fit App. And you just go in it and you select the actual stretching routine, press go, and I'm not thinking about anything apart from copying that lady on the screen. She's doing it the way she's doing it, and I'm doing my version of it, which is a lot stiffer and a lot more rigid. but
get yourself in that position.
Some of those positions, I have no idea. But for me, it's maintenance. And if I did that every day and didn't run, then I'd probably be quite flexible. But I want to run, so I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
resetting my body every day. But I'm making it easy for myself by just copying someone. And I know you guys, New Levels Coaching, offer different classes that you can follow, and you can, like, for example, Gemma does a bums and tums class. I'm not too sure how often they are, but they are great because you're literally not having to think and watch someone else who knows what they're doing and takes that out of your mind. So that is a way to ingrain a habit. But obviously, Gemma can't be doing those classes every single morning for you. But like, if you can remember a routine off the back of those and implement that into your days, and then when you see your instructor on those other days, you'll be more prepared and you'll learn new things to add to your habit. So
there's certain things like again, when I went through that habit program, it's really useful because you're aware of these things, but you don't understand them. And one of the things you're talking about there is having cues to cue you into your habit. So, like, for example, putting my journal and my book out on the kitchen table, on my center aisle in the kitchen. So when I get up in the morning, it's there. But the other thing that I did subconsciously was buying a yoga mat, a stretching mat. And every morning I get it out, and that's a cue for me to start my habit. You've downloaded the app. That's a cue. It's there. It's to help you. And the other good tip that is really good is having accountability, like having an accountability partner. So, someone there to say, oh, have you done your habit this morning? Like Gemma, oh, have you journaled this morning? And making yourself accountable. Now, I'm a big believer in you should only ever be accountable to yourself, because if you want to do something and you want to achieve something, then the accountability stops with you. Like, as a coach, I can set the best plan in the world for someone, but if they don't do it, then it's not going to help them. So you've got to be accountable to yourself, but you also need some help along the way. And that's where, like, if we go to a retreat, for example, in Morsey, the Lake District, wherever that might be, you're going to have people around you that keep you accountable. And that's when you start to ingrain these habits with little cues, buying things or downloading things. There's loads of little tips that you can do to get yourself into good habits. And the other thing we haven't discussed yet is breaking bad habits.
Yeah. And the breaking the bad habits is sometimes the harder thing to do, because like you hear the most famous ones, like smoking, for example. Stop smoking like that is very difficult to do unless there's something really bad that happens to you or someone close to you that makes you realize this is not for me, this habit. That one moment breaks it. Or it's a continual pattern of trying to wean yourself off that habit by making something else equally as attractive. So nicotine patches give you the same buzz of the nicotine, or nicotine chewing gum give you something to do whilst you're standing there outside the office, and those habits. But for us as runners, it's a bit different to that, because our habits generally aren't smoking and drinking as being the issues. It is more day-to-day things that you don't do, which means that you get injured, or it means that you're tired. So that could be not doing the strengthening routine that once per week, or not doing the stretching routine once per week. There's so many different bad habits happen as well.
Yeah, and that almost becomes a bit of a problem in itself. We have people who are obsessive with training and overtrain, because they, nothing infuriates me more every year when I see the run every day in January and people start running every day for the first time in their life without a rest. And I just know deep down that probably isn't right for them, but it's great to see people getting fit. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But that can be a bad thing, being obsessive. And, eating disorders are very, very common at the top end of our sport. That is an obsession and a habit, and it's a bad habit that people ingrain. I think the most important thing to point out is you're so right in the sense when you say it's so hard to break a habit that's ingrained. For example, smoking. When I used to go into the hospital with Gemma, when Gemma was going through a treatment, bear in mind, you're on a ward where people are going through chemotherapy treatment for different types of cancer. And a lot of these cancers were related to smoking. Gemma's wasn't personally, but there were people on that ward who were in there because they had like a lung cancer. And you see the same people who are in there getting chemotherapy, and whilst they're having chemotherapy, they're out on the balcony smoking. And it was at that point in time when I realized, my word, that must be such an ingrained habit. That must be so hard for them to break that habit, because they're literally getting a drug for a disease which is being caused by the thing that they're doing at the same time on the balcony. And they would literally walk out with their drip and their treatment their drug is in their hand, they're walking out, and at the same time they're smoking. And that made me realize it's not easy for everybody to do this. It's not just a simple fix, like you said. You're quite right. You can't just click your fingers and do it.
Yeah, and like I initially mentioned, that it has to be something big to change your mindset. If you're dying, there might be a similar thing where you think, I might as well just keep on doing the bad habit because I've come this
Yeah.
far and I actually quite enjoy it. So it's sometimes the bad habits are the ones that kill you, but you might as well just keep on doing it if you're going down that way anyway. So it's so difficult. So it is important to ingrain in your life positive habits. And eventually those positive habits, you'll have so much time taken up by those that the negative ones, there'll be no time for those things. So it's a mindset shift. It's a lifestyle shift, but it does take a long time and years and years. And I'm talking like this on this call now, but over the last 6-7 years, I haven't had those habits. I haven't ingrained them in my life. And that I've found I've had other habits that I might not have been aware of. But in terms of fitness and training, I haven't done those things. And I know if I had done them, I'd have been in a different position now than I would have been at the point I'm at now. So,
and I think, I sometimes think, if I'd done all this when I was running, what would it have made a difference? But I do look back and think I had a lot of good habits in there when I was running. I just didn't realize. I just wasn't doing them intentionally then. I was doing them without thinking. There's a couple of really good tips I want to give to people, actually, is, so, again, they came from the habit building program, which is why I found it so useful for me. And I'll be further thankful to Rob. Actually, what we did is we swapped coaching service. I coached him back to running, and he's running really well, which is great. And he coached me through a habit program, which has helped to change and transform my life, which is brilliant. And one of the tips he said was, you can not do your habit one day, but don't ever fall into the trap of not doing it for 2 days in a row. Yeah. So the minute you fall into the trap of it going 2 days, it's when you're actually starting to break that habit. And I think it's the same with if you're doing something, a negative habit. If you haven't done it for 1 day, that's great. But if you fall into the trap and you do it again for 1 day, and then you do it again for the second day, you're going to fall into the trap of building that habit again. So it's always like that 2-day reminder, like it's fine to have a mistake day. Like we all make mistakes. It's fine to have a down day, but don't let it creep in twice, because if it does, you're more likely to either break the habit that you've been doing, or you're more likely to pick that bad habit back up.
There's so many examples of people repeating, like so many successful people of doing habits repeatedly, like the Jerry Seinfeld thing where he wrote every day. And Ron Hill, for example, he run every day.
Even in an airport when he was stuck.
Exactly. And fine well that running on an airport isn't really a run. But the fact that he in his head said, I am going for a run, and he shuffled for that up and down, he is a runner, and he defined himself by it. So the habits you do define you. And your habit might not be, I run every single day, because you might just break. But Ron Hill didn't, but he also ran 2:09 for a marathon. So he's a bit of a special athlete. But if you're not going to run 2:09 for a marathon, I'd recommend those habits don't be run every day, and there'd be something positive and healthy every day, but not necessarily that. And there's so many examples of people doing good things with repeated success every single day, but it does take years to get to the point. So there's no better time to start than yesterday or today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because the biggest thing that'll happen, even off the back of this, if people listen to it, and hopefully they will, like I always say, hopefully more than just my nana listens to it.
Hiya, Mum.
Yeah. All our fans, Mum and Nana and Dad. But people may listen to this, and right now, in just over a month's time, we're going to get to New Year, and this is the perfect example of it. Everybody will set a New Year's resolution, and it'll be, well, at the minute it won't be go to the gym, but it'll be something like get fit, and that'll last for a few days, or if they go a little bit longer, it'll last a month. But as you quite rightly point out, they'll say, oh, I'll just get started in January. Like, why? Why wait till January? If you want to do something, just do it. Like, get on with it. Start yesterday. Get on with it right now. But people will wait. If you really want to do something, if you really want to put it in place, challenge yourself to start right now. Because there was a really good, there's the High Performance Podcast is the podcast I was trying to think of. Some really good interviews on there. And Jake Humphrey said, what annoys me about some of my friends is they've been saying to me, oh, the time's just not right. And he said, I've been hearing that for the last 16 to 20 years. I'm going to do it when the time's right. When is the time right? Like, just sometimes just go and do it.
I reckon we should set everyone a challenge who's listening to this and just find a habit. If you're already doing one, then fine, don't worry about it. But if you've not got a habit that grounds you every day, start tomorrow and forget the New Year thing. If you want to start towards New Year, start December 31st or start January 3rd, but don't start on the 1st of January. Like, it doesn't need to be that day. Train yourself not to think like everyone else does. Train yourself to think like you do for you. And I think last week we talked and we asked people questions about goals, and that was our discussion. So I think we should probably bring in who replied to us last week, and there's a few people messaged me about their goals, and I think a few of them are quite personal, but I think you want to share one person's goal.
Yeah, I think, so don't be afraid to share your habits with us. In fact, make yourself accountable. Do send us them in and say to us, yeah, that's the habit I'm going to try, like Matt said. But last time, we had some really good goals sent in, but as Matt said, we're not going to go through them all because they're quite personal. But one of the big areas that was kind of discussed from a few people was the difference between goals and aspirations. So actually having aspirations for not just you, but other people. And this example, in fact, I'll give an example related to me. So for example, a coach, if I have an aspiration to coach somebody to an Olympic Games, that athlete obviously has a goal to go towards the Olympic Games. So is it an aspiration of mine as a coach, or is it a goal? And I think we had a discussion about it, didn't we, Matt? As long as we're taking action towards it, we feel like that's a goal.
Yeah, I think anything that you're looking forward to in the future, anything that you think is positive to work towards and aim towards, is a goal itself. But yeah, thank you to everyone who messages about that. And like Lewis said, it'd be good if you guys could message us with your habits that you want to start, whether it's something really complicated or something really simple. And if you want any, like, not so much advice, but anyone to talk to about it, then feel free to reach out to Lewis or myself, and we can maybe give you a bit of that. But thanks for listening, guys. Today it's the end of this podcast, and I hope you got something out of it. And we'll be back in December with our next version of it.
Yeah,
nice one, Lou. Thanks today, mate.
A Christmas edition will be the next one. I can't wait.
Perfect. All right, mate. Nice one. Have a good day.